Listen, something just came out that completely blindsided everyone, and we need to talk about it right now. A credible insider just leaked information about a free agent that literally nobody has been discussing this entire offseason. And when you hear who it is, you're going to understand why this is so confusing. We're diving into exactly who this player is, what this could mean for the team moving forward, and why the timing of this report is raising so many eyebrows. Plus, we've got a bunch of other critical updates that you absolutely cannot miss regarding free agency. So make sure you stick around for the entire breakdown. Before we jump in, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Your support genuinely means everything to this channel, so thank you for that. All right, let's get right into this because there's a lot to unpack today. We've been talking endlessly about Kyle Tucker, about Bichette, about all these major names floating around the rumor mill. But today we're focusing on a report that honestly came out of nowhere. And when I say nobody saw this coming, I need to clarify what I mean. It's not that this player hasn't been connected to the organization before, because he definitely has been in previous off seasons. What makes this so bizarre is the timing of it all, especially considering everything else that's happening right now. According to sources, several teams, including the Angels, Pirates, White Sox, and yes, the Blue Jays, have shown early interest in free agent third baseman Yoan Moncada. Despite dealing with thumb and knee issues recently, Moncada actually had a solid 2024 season and could potentially contribute even more next season if he stays healthy. Among third basemen, he's definitely someone teams are looking at. This report comes from Francis Romero, who's actually a fairly reputable reporter, especially when it comes to Moncada specifically. I think he's had accurate reports in the past about where Moncada was going to sign and various developments with his career. For those who don't remember, Moncada used to be an absolutely elite prospect, like really, really high-end talent. He played with the White Sox for years and had some genuinely impressive seasons during his time there. But after signing a one-year deal with the Angels and now with the Jays technically having an open spot at third base, this connection is starting to surface again. Here's the thing, though. If they're seriously pursuing Moncada, the fit is just strange on multiple levels. Let's look at the actual numbers because they tell an interesting story. Defensively, he was really bad last year, like legitimately concerning. Offensively, he was pretty decent, but he only appeared in 84 games due to various injuries. He put up a 783 OPS, which isn't terrible, but it's not exactly what you'd call impressive either. I don't really love this as a potential move, and here's why. It seems like every single offseason, without fail, the organization gets linked to Moncada in some capacity. Last year, there were reports about interest in Moncada. The year before that, same thing. So when I say nobody saw this coming, it's not because Moncada as a player is some shocking revelation. It's because this report is dropping so late in the offseason when typically these kinds of connections come out much earlier in the process. Is this potentially just a contingency plan in case they miss out on their primary targets? That's the big question mark hanging over this entire situation. When you actually dig into his recent performance, he hasn't put up a season with even one WAR since 2021, which is concerning for any team looking to improve. Obviously, he had a really strong year in 2021 and an absolutely unbelievable year back in 2019, but he's now entering his age 31 season. At this point in his career, he just hasn't shown the consistent ability to stay healthy and produce. He does have back-to-back years with decent offensive statistics, though it's worth noting he only played 12 games in 2023. The injury concerns are legitimate and have been ongoing for multiple seasons now. So here's the real question. Would you rather have Moncada or someone like Addison Barger playing third base? Because in theory, with Anthony Santander healthy and in the lineup, you're not going to have an extra roster spot for another third baseman, especially if Ernie Clement is going to continue getting consistent reps throughout the season. That's where this becomes genuinely confusing the more you think about it. Look at all the infielders they've been connected to recently. There's Okamoto, whose signing window is closing within the next week and a half to 2 weeks. There's obviously Bichette. They've been linked to Ketel Marte. They've had reported interest in Alex Bregman. It's abundantly clear they have an opening at third base internally, and they're actively shopping for third basemen across the market. but at the same time, this particular move doesn't make a ton of sense, at least from my perspective. When you look at how the third base position is currently projected, it's basically scheduled as a 50-50 split, or more accurately, a 60-40 split between Barger and Clement. Clement is also scheduled to play a significant amount of second base. And I'm presuming they're going to either get Boba back or sign Kyle Tucker. And if they do go the Kyle Tucker route, you could have Barger at third and Clement at second, or figure out some other configuration there. But then you're taking at-bats away from Addison Barger, who the organization clearly wants to develop. Santander and Springer are going to split some time in right field. You could argue that Springer's going to be primarily a designated hitter moving forward, but whatever way you want to slice it, the roster construction gets complicated. I genuinely don't love Moncada as a player for this team's needs. When you pull up his Savant page, the numbers are pretty telling. He can't run the bases effectively anymore. He's horrible defensively at this stage of his career. He is admittedly a pretty good hitter, but he's better suited to being a designated hitter at this point, except he can't really even fulfill that role optimally because he doesn't hit for enough power to justify a full-time DH spot. Technically, he was on pace for around 22 to 23 home runs last season based on his rate stats, but that's not exactly the kind of production you're looking for from a designated hitter. I don't love this potential move if they actually go out and sign him. Keep in mind at this point there are other teams involved in pursuing him. Look at who else is interested: the Angels, the Pirates, and the White Sox. These aren't exactly playoff contenders we're talking about here. Maybe this is what's been happening over the past couple years, where they're just doing their due diligence, seeing if he could serve as a backup plan if they completely strike out on everyone else they're pursuing. But because signing him would potentially take spots away from Addison Barger and other young players, I would really, really hope they're simultaneously pursuing higher-end talent. Obviously, Alex Bregman would be preferable. If they're trying to do bargain shopping, then maybe Moncada could make some sense in a very specific scenario. But at this point in time, you need to find room for guys like David Schneider. Schneider is probably going to play some left field alongside Nathan Lugo if Lugo isn't traded before the season starts. All these little roster positions you fill up matter, and it creates a domino effect throughout the lineup. That's not to say this team shouldn't be actively looking to improve, because they absolutely need to get better on the infield. But I think out of all the infield positions, third base is actually the least pressing of their needs when you compare it to second base at this point. Yes, there are openings at both third and second, but you cannot go into next season with a mentality of just hoping things work out. You can't think, okay, let's hope Ernie Clement has the same offensive year he just had. Let's hope Addison Barger has a genuine breakout year. Let's hope George Springer is going to keep producing at his current level despite his age. You need to make legitimate improvements to the roster, and that's exactly why I'm not excited about the Moncada possibility. I would much prefer someone like Alex Bregman, or at least somebody the organization can truly rely on, who's had multiple great seasons at the major league level recently. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on this situation, because I'm genuinely curious what you guys think. This is a little bit surprising to me, but we're at the point of the offseason where reports are starting to fly fast and furious. I'm presuming we're going to hear something concrete about either Boba Bichette or Kyle Tucker over the next few days. Keep in mind that Ben Nicholson-Smith reported a few weeks ago that January was his estimated time frame for their major signing, so we're right in that window now. There are tons of other updates to cover as well. In case you missed it yesterday, and I'll run through this briefly, so make sure to check out yesterday's full video after you finish this one. There was a recent report from John Heyman that really set the stage for what might be coming. It basically stated they're legitimately linked to the number one free agent Kyle Tucker. They're seriously considering Boba Bichette. They're considering Alex Bregman. And perhaps most intriguingly, their biggest move may actually be yet to come. That's directly from John Heyman, so keep that in your mind when evaluating potential moves. There was also an interesting report from Mike Schill where he discussed where Boba Bichette might play in 2025. He mentioned seeing a good match out by the Bay, which obviously refers to San Francisco. So slowly but surely, there are more and more teams getting linked to Boba Bichette in various reports. This wasn't exclusively about Boba or just about the Giants, as there were several other teams mentioned as well. But the connections are definitely building. Some people are even talking about the Athletics. And while they are spending more money than usual, I really don't think that's going to happen. The Giants could actually be a very interesting fit for him, especially considering that for a long time now, the Giants have been randomly linked to Boba in trade talks and various rumors. I remember doing several videos on that topic a couple years ago, so it's definitely something to monitor closely as the available free agents start making their decisions. On a more positive note, let's talk about some prospect news that you might have missed. Johaira Pinago actually cleared the Rule 5 draft, which means he's now fighting for a 40-man roster spot moving forward. You can see he didn't get selected in the draft, and he's currently slashing .353 with a .424 on-base percentage and .694 slugging percentage in the Venezuelan Winter League, which is obviously a very, very impressive line. Keep a close eye on him for next season, because this is somebody I covered extensively on the channel throughout last year. The organization has a lot of prospects who are right on the fringe of being major league ready, and we've seen how this plays out before. Spencer Horwitz was getting blocked for quite a while before getting his opportunity. Nathan Lugo, who wasn't technically considered a prospect, was getting blocked for a long time until last year when he really stepped up his game. There are going to be more players like that emerging this year. Keep an eye out for potential trades involving players like Johaira Pinago or some of these other fringe prospects, because you never really know what direction the front office might go. They have numerous internal pieces that they may need to move in order to clear roster space, and it's an unfortunate reality of roster construction. The prospect pool is significantly deeper now than it's been in recent years. Ricky Tiedemann is probably going to make a substantial impact this season. Monitoring guys like Johaira Pinago, who are having surprisingly strong Winter League performances, is going to be important, especially as rumors start flying about roster construction for the rest of the Major League team. I'll have a full video covering his Winter League performance coming soon, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that breakdown. That's going to wrap things up for today. You guys have been absolutely incredible with the support lately, and it truly means the world to me. I'll see you in tomorrow's video, unless some major breaking news drops before then. Make sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments about the Moncada situation and everything else we covered today. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.